అమ్మాయికి పని చేస్తాం.
పవర్ పాయింట్ మూవ్ అవ్వాలంటే ఏం చేయాలి? పవర్ పాయింట్ మూవ్ అవ్వాలి.
అవుతుంది అవట్లేదా?
చూస్తే ఆ మూడుకి వెళ్తే వస్తుంది, మూడుకి వెళ్ళకపోతే మళ్ళీ అక్కడి నుంచి అక్కడికి మారుతూ ఉండాలి.
మూవ్ అవుతుందా లేదా పవర్ పాయింట్? అవట్లేదు. నువ్వు పవర్ పాయింట్ బొమ్మకి నొక్కు కింద.
దాంట్లో వాయిస్ కనపడదు.
వాయిస్ ఆల్రెడీ ఆన్లో ఉంది, ఏమీ అవ్వదు. నువ్వు కింద పవర్ పాయింట్ ఉంది కదా, పవర్ పాయింట్ బొమ్మ నొక్కు.
మూవ్ అవుతుంది కానీ అది వాయిస్ కనపడలేదు.
వాయిస్ ఆన్లో ఉంది, ఆగదు, కొంచెం మిస్గా ఉంటుంది, అది పట్టించుకో.
ఎన్ని బాధలు ఆయన్ని కొనుక్కున్నాను.
బాగా ఉందే, మామూలు కామన్ సెన్స్.
అక్కడ వస్తే దాన్ని ఒక మూడు మైనస్ చేయొచ్చు, మ్యూట్ చేస్తే కనపడుతుంది. అది ఎందుకు
రావట్లేదు? మరి ఎందుకు రావట్లేదు? నేను నా కర్మ, నేను ఇందులో చేయలేదు. అది ఇక్కడ బాగా అది కనిపిస్తుంది కదా అని అనిపిస్తుంది.
ఇక్కడికి వచ్చినారు కష్టం. మనం చూసే పని మనుషులు ఆగరు. ఇక్కడ వీళ్ళకి ఏవో ఒకటి అవుతాయి, డబ్బులు వేరాలు. అస్సలు ఎందుకో మరి ఇట్లా అదృష్టం. డబ్బులు పోతాయి అన్నీ.
మనం రాకూడదు, రానప్పుడు అడిగాం. మనం వస్తే బ్యాడ్లోకి తీసుకొస్తాం, మనతో వాళ్ళు ఉండలేకపోతాం. Everything is there,
ఎలా
పని మనుషులు కావాలని మనం వచ్చేగా కావాలి. వాళ్ళ అమ్మ నాన్న వచ్చిన వాళ్ళు కూడా అలాగే రాలేదు. ఎక్స్ట్రా మనుషుల్లాగానే కావాలి మానేస్తారు. మా అమ్మాయి చెప్పింది, మా అమ్మ నాన్న వచ్చినప్పుడు ఇలాగ మానేస్తారు నాకు. మా అమ్మాయి చేసుకుందాన్ని నేను. వాళ్ళని అసలు మొత్తం తీసేసి భాషలకు మిషన్, చూడడానికి ఒక మిషన్ కొనుక్కోమంటే అలా చూసుకుంటాను. నేను పెట్టే ఆర్డర్లు వస్తాయి పెట్టాను. ఇది వస్తుంది.
వచ్చిన రగ్గుంటే 2 రోజులు మునగ పెడతాను. వచ్చిన ఏది ఇచ్చినా 2 రోజులు మునగ పెడుతుంది, పని చేయట్లేదు. సో వచ్చేసిన అక్కడేమో ఒకళ్ళు పలకరు, ఒకటి పని చేయరు. చిన్న పనికి 8 రోజులు చేస్తున్నాడు. పోనీ కూర్చుని చేద్దాంటే నెట్టి పని చేయాలి. అమ్మాయి దాంట్లో నుంచి బాగానే వచ్చింది.
అమ్మాయి సెల్లో వచ్చింది. అమ్మాయి సెల్లో వచ్చింది.
లక్ష్మి చేసింది కాదంతా.
లక్ష్మి సెల్లో చేసింది. ఆ అమ్మాయి సెల్లో చేసింది. సెల్లోంచి ల్యాప్టాప్ పెట్టుకొని సెల్ కనెక్షన్ ఇచ్చుకొని చేసుకుంది. అమ్మాయికి ఇంటర్నెట్ ఇవ్వలేదుగా, ఇవి కొంచెం ఓడోడు కొట్టుకొని అన్నాను. మిక్సర్లు అందరూ కలిపి కొట్టుకుని ఏం చేస్తారు.
మనుషులు పెట్టడం పని
ఇంటర్నెట్ ఇవ్వాలి మనిషి కొట్టి, లేకపోతే ఎలా చేస్తారు. లేదా మీ సొంతానికే వాడుకోవాలి. ఏం చెప్పాలన్నా చెప్పాలి. మేము కొనివ్వం, వాళ్ళు ఇస్తారన్నా మీరే మీ సొంతం వాడుకోవాలని చెప్పాలి. ఇంకో క్లారిటీ ఉండాలి.
మీ భార్గవ్ గారు ఏదో పంపు 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 కాన్స ఆప్షన్ 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 అంటే వీళ్ళు ఆప్షన్లు ఎన్నిసార్లు అడిగినా వీళ్ళు ఇవ్వట్ల పిల్లలు కొట్టన మీద పడి మ్యాపింగ్ మ్యాపింగ్ అంటున్నారు. వాళ్ళ పేర్లు రాయాలి అంటే మరి మ్యాపింగ్ వాళ్ళ పేపర్లో వాళ్ళ పేర్లు రాయాలి కదా. ఇది మరి కల్పన ఎక్కువైపోయింది పాఠం పనికంటే. ఏం బాగుందమ్మా ఆ మనుషులు అలా ఉన్నారు. వాళ్ళు రిక్రూట్ చేసుకుంటే కూడా సరిగ్గా రిక్రూట్ చేద్దామంటే అంత దరిద్రంగా వస్తున్నారు. ఏం చేయాలి?
వేరే కోఆర్డినేటర్ పంపించమని చెప్పాను. నాకు వద్దు కోఆర్డినేటర్ పోస్ట్ వేరే వాడిని పంపించాను.
పనులు మనిషిని ఉందని సాగు దొబ్బుతానంటే కదా.
అండ్ ఆ ఇయర్పి అస్సలు పని చేయట్లేదు. ఎందుకు పనిచేయదు? మాకు వేయడానికి పని చేయట్లేదు. ఎందుకు పని చేయదు? కన్ఫ్యూజింగ్గా పెట్టుకున్నారు ప్రొసీజర్స్ అన్ని.
స్లోగా పాస్ అయిపోవాలి. నెట్టే పని చేయదు మనకి అన్ని కదా.
నెట్ తెచ్చుకోవాలి. బిఎస్ఎన్ఎల్ వాడుతున్నా నెట్ తెచ్చుకోవాలి.
టెక్నాలజీ అంటే కొన్నిసార్లు మొరాయించి పని చేయదు ఏంటరా. ఇందులో మన చక్కగా వచ్చేది మైకు ఇట్లాంటి మాకు అవసరం లేనప్పుడు మా కొట్టు అది ఏది రాదు. పైసలు వేస్తే అది కనపడవు. ఏందండి ఇది? పైసలు వేస్తే ఎక్కడ వెళ్ళిపోతాయి, ఎవరుకోపోతాయి. ఏంది మరి మనకే అవుతుందా? రాదా
మనకి రావట్లా.
ఎన్ని పైసలు కూడా కొట్టేస్తున్నావు.
నేను పోగొట్టాను. వచ్చాను 1,80,000 వచ్చాయని చూపించే కదా. పోగొట్టడం ఏంటి?
ఆ 30,000 పోయే ట్రాన్సాక్షన్
రావట్లేదు. బ్యాంక్ ఆఫ్ బరోడాకి వెళ్దామంటే ఎక్కడ పొద్దున సాయంత్రం చూస్తే సరిపోయి ఏది పనికొచ్చే పని ఒకటి చేసింది.
తీసుకుని స్కూటర్ ఎవరు వాడట్లేదు కదా. తీసుకోవాలి. ఇప్పుడు అమ్మాయి కాలు కూడా ఏం పని చేయదు కదా. తీసుకోవాలి. వాళ్ళంటే సరే ఆదివారం వాళ్ళ రేపు వాళ్ళ సోమవారం అయినా రేపళ్ళు మేము మా పనులు మేము ఏంగా నీ పని నువ్వు ఉండొచ్చు కదా. మేము ఇంట్లోనే ఉండమని ఆడవాళ్ళ పని నేనే పోతాను, నేనే వెళ్ళాను, ఎవరో పోనీ లేదని ఉంటాం. నీకు టెన్షన్ వచ్చింది పోలేదండి. అంత ఏం మందులు చెప్పినాడు కూడా ఎంఆర్ అంటున్నాడు. ఆయన కూడా ఏం చెప్పాలి పగిలేదా. అది అన్నారంటే 2 ఓవరీలు ఏం కాదు, ఒక ఓవరీకి ఉన్నట్టు కనిపిస్తుంది. పీసీడీ అది అది ఓవర్ వెయిట్ వల్ల అలా ఉంటుంది. వెయిట్ తగ్గితే తగ్గుతుంది.
వీడు కావాలి నాన్ వెజ్ తినిపించి అమ్మని పడేసాడు అన్నట్టు. అమ్మాయి వెజిటేరియన్ తినడంలో సన్నగా బాగా బాగానే ఉంది. బలవంతంగా నాన్ వెజ్ తిను అని బాగా తీసేస్తాడు.
ప్రోటీన్ అంటున్నారు.
ఏదన్నా అన్ని నాన్ వెజ్ అమ్మాయి పడదు. నాకు బాగా అర్థం.
మనం చెప్తే మనం చెప్తారు. అక్కడ చెప్తున్నా లైట్ కళ్ళు కనపడాల్సిన అసలు.
ఇక్కడ లైట్ వేస్తే అమ్మాయి అక్కడ లైట్ వేస్తే వీడుతుంది.
అందుకే అక్కడ
బెస్ట్ బెటర్ కూర్చోకుండా
చదువుకునేదంటే
వెళ్ళిపోదాం అంటే ట్యాక్సీ బుక్ చేసి వెళ్ళిపోదాం. ఎంత అవుతాయి అంత. ఎందుకంటే ఎలాగో ఫ్లైట్లో అంతే అవుతాం. 5,000 10,000 అవునే అవుతాం. 8,000 అవలా ప్లస్ వాడికి 1,000 రూపాయలు ఇవ్వాలి. మళ్ళా బంగారు గారికి పెట్రోల్ 1,000 రూపాయలు పెంచుతా. 10,000 అవలా అక్కడ.
ట్రిప్ 10,000 అయిపోతుంది.
రావడానికి
మీరు
17
వచ్చి ఇంకా వేలకు లేకపోతే
మరి ఇంకా ట్రైన్ ఏమి దొరుకుతా ఉంటుంది ఏమి దొరుకుతుంది అన్ని చేసినాను.
మరి బాసివాళ్ళకి 2,000 అవుతున్నారు, రోజు వారం వారం వస్తున్నాయి. బస్సులు అడుగుడుగా వస్తున్నాయి, ఎక్కువ ఖర్చు పెట్టుకుని సాగు దొరుకుతాడు.
బస్సులో వస్తున్నాయి ఎలా ఆపుకుంటుంది అది బాత్రూమ్ అది నాకు చాలా సరిపోయింది.
సాగలే
నాకు లాస్ట్ 2-3 రోజులు బట్టి 5-6 వర్షాలు అయింది ఇక్కడికి వచ్చినప్పటి నుంచి.
వచ్చారా
20 5-6 సార్లు అయింది.
నాకు కూడా 2 సార్లు ఇస్తాను. లూజ్గా ఉందా, కడుపు నొప్పి అన్నా
అన్నీ ఉన్నాయి. అది రోగాల్లో ఏం లేదు కానీ దొడ్డుకు వచ్చేస్తాను.
వస్తుంది, నొప్పులు ఏం లేవుగా. క్వాంటిటీ పెరిగింది ఇక్కడ అన్నం,
ఉప్పుకు వస్తుంది దొడ్డుకు వస్తుంది.
క్వాంటిటీ పెరుగుతుంది ఇక్కడ అన్నం. అన్నిసార్లు ఎక్కడ తింటావు అప్పుడు? అన్నం ఎక్కువ తింటున్నారు. నాకు కూడా అన్నం ఎక్కువైపోయింది తిన్నా. మళ్ళీ ఏ నెల నొప్పి ఇక్కడి నుంచి తెలంగాణ వస్తే అది కావాలి. అలాగే మానేయాలా వద్దా?
వాడేమంటున్నాడు?
నొప్పి ఉంటే వేసుకోండి, నొప్పి లేనప్పుడు ఎందుకు చేసుకున్నాం.
వాడికి ఇవన్నీ కొంచెం నాకంటే బాగానే అర్థమవుతున్నాయి.
మరి దానివల్ల ఏమైనా రిపర్కేషన్స్ వస్తే కష్టం కదా, ఏ క్యాన్సర్లు వస్తాయి. ఉందా టైము?
మొదలైతే ఆయన
బ్యాంక్ పని చేస్తున్నా అంటారు. ఇవాళ బ్యాంక్ పని వచ్చింది, ఆల్రెడీ తయారు చేసి పెట్టిన బ్యాంక్ పని ఏముంది, తొందరగానే వెళ్ళిపోయి ఇవాళ అని అంటున్నాను.
బ్యాంక్ వెళ్ళాలి కదా మరి.
గట్టిగా అంటే నేను ఫోన్ బ్యాంకుగా ఉన్నాను మొప్పండి. గట్టిగా అన్నా అనుకో, నేను ఫోన్ అయితే బ్యాంకులో ఉన్నాను మొప్పండి. మీరు ఇచ్చాడు కదా రోజు.
వీళ్ళు నమ్మడం లేదు, వీళ్ళకంటే వాడే బెటర్. ఎంత విధమైనా వాడే బెటర్. ఇంకా దీపక్ అలాగే ఉన్నాడు, ఎంఐ చేత అలాగే ఉంది.
ఆ అమ్మాయి బాగానే చేసింది, ఆ పక్క నేషనల్ స్కీమ్ ప్రాజెక్ట్ చేసింది ఆ అమ్మాయి.
మీ ఇద్దరు ఉంటే మాటలు చెప్పేవాడు కానీ పని చేసినట్టు.
వాళ్ళు ఇవన్నీ మన పనులు వాళ్ళతో చేస్తున్నాం.
అంత పిహెచ్డి వర్క్లో
ఇప్పటిదాకా అవి కూడా పంపలే, పుస్తకాల లిస్టు పంపలే, ఏది పంపలేదు. ఏం చేస్తున్నట్టు వీళ్ళు వస్తే గొప్ప పనులు అవుతాయి అనుకునే. మేము అమెజాన్లో తక్కువ ఉండే అన్నీ డౌట్లు పెడతాం వాళ్ళకి, వాళ్ళేమో ఇంటి ముందు పోరు.
ఒట్టు పెట్టడం కాదు, రేపు పొద్దున మనం ఇరుక్కోకూడదు. నీటైతే అయింది కొంపలు మునుగం, మనం ఇరుక్కుంటే మనం జైలుకి వెళ్తాం. ఎవడో హెల్ప్ చేయడు. మిగతా తిన్నవాడు తిన్నట్టు వాడు గుజ్జు వాడు గుజ్జుపై ప్రతివాడికి ఎవడో నెచ్చి మీద ఉన్నాడు. ఏమి లేకపోతే ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ రిజిస్ట్రార్ కాపాడుతాడు వాళ్ళని. వాళ్ళందరూ ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ రిజిస్ట్రార్ మనుషులే వచ్చారు యాజ్ కోఆర్డినేటర్. వాళ్ళని కాపాడుకుంటాడు. మన ఎవరు కాపాడతాడు? అంటే గివెన్ పాయింట్ ఆఫ్ టైం డబ్బుల విషయంలో చాలా అతి జాగ్రత్తగా ఉండడం మేలు. 4 రోజుల పాటు ఉండాలి మన ఉద్యోగం. అందుకని అది జాగ్రత్త అనిపించినా సరే, విసుగు అనిపించినా సరే, పనులు అవ్వకపోయినా సరే.
ఫ్యాక్టరీ వచ్చింది, అది కూర్చునే ఉన్నాడు. ఒక ఎక్సైజ్ అతుకోబెట్టి కూర్చుంటే ఫ్యాక్టరీ అనిపిస్తుంది. జిమ్కి వెళ్ళేవాడు ఎదురిచ్చాడు కానీ మనిషి
డబ్బుల కోసం
డబ్బులు లేవు, డబ్బులు లేవు. ఏమన్నాడు అది చేయరా అంటే అది వాకరేదో పోయింది అంటే ఏది చెప్పేదో అని నేను తెలియదు. ఒక్క పాజిటివ్ మాట మాట్లాడు.
కింద జరిపావా వాయిస్ ఇక్కడ
నువ్వు చదువురా. అమ్మాయి కూడా పంపించింది, పూజ పంపించింది, యాదవ్ పంపించాడు, ఇన్ని ఉన్నాయి. క్లియర్గా స్టెప్ బై స్టెప్ ఇచ్చాడు వాళ్ళు. అది మనం షేర్ చేసినట్లేదు వాళ్ళకి. అక్కడ పోయాకే చేయాలి, వీళ్ళు చెప్పినా ఎవరైనా మనకంట స్పెషల్. రేపే బయలుదేరుతాం ఊరికి. ఇదే ఆయన ఏం మాట చెప్పని మళ్ళీ ఇలా పెట్టి పోయిపోయాడు అనుకోండి, ఇన్ని రోజులు అని చూసుకుంటే అది కాబట్టి ఇది కాబట్టి అనుకోసేది. ఒకసారి ఫోన్ ఏమన్నాను, ఇందో లేదో చూస్తాను రిపోర్ట్ అని నేను చెప్పొచ్చేది. అయిపోయిన ఒక తల్లి ఇంకా టైంలో చెప్పొస్తాను. ఇట్లా కాలు పెట్టడానికి లేదు, ఇట్లా చేస్తే ఎట్లా పోవాలా నేను? లేవడానికే లేకుండా ఇట్లా అస్సలు ఇబ్బంది చేసినాను రావుతోటికే.
అక్కడే కూర్చో. ఎవరు ఏమన్నాడు కూర్చో
చెప్దామా
లేదు, రేపు పొద్దున్న చెప్పు. ఇప్పుడు పని చేయి, ఇది ఇంపార్టెంట్. అది కాదు అస్సలు ప్రయారిటీ వస్తుంది. మొదటి క్లాస్ అయిపోయింది. పవర్ పాయింట్ సరిగ్గా 1 తెచ్చుకో. వాయిస్ ఆన్లో ఉంది, ఏం కంగారు పడుతుంది.
గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ ఎవ్రీబడి. రివర్బరేషన్. I think we'll start. Good evening. I think we'll start off. See, one more chapter, rather one topic by name juvenile delinquency. Now, to deal with juvenile delinquency, we have a special act enactment, and there are a lot of amendments that have taken place in the original enactment way back 2000 and then 2015 and all. There are 2008 of course. So there are series of amendments that have taken place. Now, in order to understand what juvenile delinquency is, we need to understand Juvenile Justice Act. Now, this is called the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015. Now, as the very name of the act suggests, that it talks about children and then it talks about their care and protection. Normal children who are in the care and protection of parents, they don't require special care and protection. It is for them everything is given, isn't it? Parents I mean, children who have the parents, they are blessed and they have naturally that care and protection of the parents will be given to them. But then the Juvenile Justice Act especially talks about those children who are deprived of this care and protection. So that is the reason why it is talking about the juveniles who are in need of care and protection. And it tries to divide these type of children into two categories. So children who are into some kind of an indulged in some kind of an offense, and how to deal with such children, because in that case also they need care and protection, because of the tender age they are not able to understand the consequences of what they are doing, isn't it? So for that reason they are also a category of children, namely the juvenile delinquent children. So they are in need of care and protection, isn't it? So the act also talks about another category of children, those who are neglected. That means neglected children can be, vagabonds whose parents are not there, or both the parents are killed, or maybe a single parent because of the family background, or because of the imbalances that are there in the family, or disruptive family, or broken family. So there are many reasons why children run away from houses, and then they land into some kind of railway platforms to eke out their own livelihood. They indulge into some kind of malpractices, or are being abused by the adult offenders and all. And there are so many other things which may happen and which may change the lives of the juvenile. So they are another category of children. The Juvenile Justice Act is trying to classify, and then for them also it provides lot of institutions, and then lot of care and protection. And hitherto this 2015 Act also brings in the legal way of adopting. So otherwise a lot of, in the name of adoption, lot of illegal practices used to be there. So now this also streamlines in a way the adoption process. If somebody who are childless and all wanted to adopt some children, especially from these houses and all, so there is a clear cut legal way of adopting children is also provided in the Juvenile Justice Act. Now with this backdrop, let us through these slides understand what exactly is the law is very exhaustive. I will not be dealing each and every section of the Juvenile Act, because what we have in syllabus is only juvenile delinquency. But nevertheless, a bird's eye view I would like to give on the Juvenile Justice Act. Now we know that this is a significant piece of legislation in India. As far as India is concerned, this is the framework, legal framework, that is going to govern the children who are in need of care and protection. Now it talks about their protection, their rehabilitation, and for both there are two types, as I have already told. So care, protection, rehabilitation of both kinds of children, that is child which is in conflict with law, that means the juvenile delinquent, and the child who ran away from the home and who are vagabonds, and for them also law provides a particular care. So care and protection. So it talks about the needs of both the children who have become juvenile delinquents and the children who are neglected. So it talks about two categories of children. Now, so this is a consolidated and amended act, and then it talks about two categories of children, that is children in conflict with law, otherwise we call them as delinquents, and children in need of care and protection. That means these people who ran away, are people who are homeless, are people who are abused, exploited. These kind of category of children are coming under the category of children in need of care and protection. So what are the basic needs for any child? Care, protection, development, and they are at a very tender age, so they have a lot of future. So what is the measures that the law is providing in order to socially develop? So treatment and then social reintegration. So they are run away from families, or they are delinquent. So in order to bring them back and then get them absorbed into the society, that is called reintegration. So the law provides through a lot of institutions, it is going to provide a overall development of the child. So when we say care, protection, development, treatment, social integration, all that in one word we can say. So the growth of the child, well-being of the child is the basic aim of this particular act. Now another interesting point about this act is the child-friendly approach. That means whether it be apprehension in case of a juvenile delinquent, or whether it be producing them before the court. Here carefully, if you see the wording of the act, it never says court, it says only juvenile board, juvenile justice board, JJB. So these are all child friendly in camera proceedings, and then the court also is not called as a court, and then though it is headed by a magistrate and social workers are there, social workers, among them invariably one social worker will be a female, and then while recruiting these people, board members and the magistrate, lot of background checking happens about their antecedents, whether they are into any kind of activity where earlier occasions they have ill-treated the children, or what are their credentials, and also thorough background check will be done while they are recruited as the board members, including the magistrate himself. So whether it is apprehension, now there is a special police, trained police for this purpose. Now whenever a child in need of care, or whenever a delinquent child is noticed by the police, so there is a special police. They are not supposed to be in uniform, they will be civilians, and then they will wear civil dress, and then the procedure for apprehension, arrest, these words are not there, so we don't call them as arrestee and all. And once they are apprehended, then within a stipulated time they are supposed to be produced before the JJ board. So JJ board is meant for the trial of a delinquent, that is juvenile delinquent. And there are other institutions called child welfare committees, so they deal with the child who is in need of help, I mean the children who are run away. Now in the best of interest of the children, so whatever measures, whether it be care, protection, development, it is in the interest of the child. So whatever procedure we try to do, we always keep in mind, whether it be CWC, that is Child Welfare Committee, or JJB, that is Juvenile Justice Board. So irrespective of which institution is handling these children, the best interest of the child, is paramount. That is, we have to always look into the best interest of the child. So that should be the motto. Now rehabilitation through processes provided and institutions and bodies established. So the law itself will have a provision to establish lot of institutions and bodies, and these will help the child to rehabilitate themselves. And then some people wanted vocational education, some people want to pursue higher education, and also this kind of, somebody wants to vocational courses, and all, somebody wants to opt for it. So according to the child's interest, it will be given, and that will help them in rehabilitation, and once they are rehabilitated, they will be reintegrated into the society. Now constitution, we have a lot of articles which promote the welfare of the child, and some of the articles are Article 15 subclass 3, and then the 39 clause where E and F subclasses are there, 45, 47. These are some of the constitutional articles where the child welfare or child rights are been enshrined. Now there are other UN conventions which speak about the rights of the child, and General Assembly of United Nations, there is a convention which speaks about the rights of the child, and there are comprehensive provisions in that, and then there is convention on the rights of the child, and then the United Nations Beijing rules are there which speaks about the minimum standard rules and administration of juvenile justice, how it has to be done, and all. Way back in 1985 lot of Beijing rules are formulated. So we need to, even in the act, this has been, most of it has been borrowed from this, and then you still see there are a lot of principles involved which the JJB as well as the CWC, they have to strictly adhere to these rules which are called the Beijing rules. Now Apart from that, United Nations rules are also there for protection of juvenile who is deprived of their liberty. That is in 1990. And then Hague Convention is there. Hague Convention talks about the protection of children and cooperation of respect to inter-country adoption. So Hague Convention talks about, because I told you that this law also has a provision for fostering and then adoption also. So earlier, prior to the enactment of JJ Act, the adoptions used to be most of the time illegal and all. But then to bring in adoption into a legal proper framework, the Hague Convention way back in 1993 has given lot of rules and lot of sections which speak about protection of children and cooperation in respect of inter-country adoption. So not within the country, inter-country adoption, the Hague Convention played a lot of role. It enacted in, the convention was brought in 1993. Then coming to the proper of JJ Act, now it gives in the first place the definition of a juvenile. Then what should be the age of the juvenile, when can you call a child as a juvenile, and then how to distinguish between child in conflict with law vis-a-vis the child which is neglected and all. So it defines any person under the age of, so the age limit that is given is 18, below 18. So it provides distinction between juveniles involved in heinous crime. This is the 2015 enactment, especially after Nirbhaya and all. So since one juvenile is involved in that particular case, now lot of controversy about that. Then when he is, by definition, any juvenile or any child, if she is, because of the tender age, if they are not able to understand the consequences of their act, then they should be exempted. There should be, law gives them lot of protections and privileges. Now, a person who knows that such a barbaric act when he does, and then how come that he is not mentally matured or physically matured, age-wise he is not fit enough, how can somebody just think about it? So hence there is a distinction which they try to provide, especially when we talk of heinous crimes. So the law also tries to distinguish between what are petty crimes and then what are serious crimes, and then vis-a-vis the heinous crimes. So in all heinous crimes where 10 and above years of punishment is prescribed, so whether the child under age 18, should it be tried as if it is an adult, or should the juvenile justice act still holds good? But it's all the subject to matter of the JJ board. So once the juvenile delinquent is brought before the court, the JJB, here we don't call it as a court, but it is called as a board. So once after apprehension by the special police, if the child is brought before the board, then it is very subjective. So they have to just look into the psychology of the child and then conduct lot of tests on it, and then arrive at conclusion whether he is aware of the consequences, because the crime that is being committed by that child is so heinous that nobody, normal prudent person, a prudent common man, will not agree that he doesn't know the consequences of the act. So hence they said if it is a heinous crime, then under the age of 18 it cannot be, the child cannot be called as a juvenile. But then when the offence is proved, when the guilt is proved, then when it comes to trial, how it should be tried, that means should he be tried under the adult act, or should he be tried under the juvenile act? When it comes to that question, they said he should be treated for all purposes as adult, and whatever the other law, apart from the juvenile act, whatever the other laws which hold good for any adult person, those acts should be implemented. Now, child in conflict with law, we have already used this word. Alleged are found to have committed an offence. So person, it can be a mere allegation, or maybe he has really committed an offence, and still the age limit is 18, below 18 years, not completed 18 years on the date of commission of such offence. Why they have specifically used this word on the date of commission of such offence? Maybe when he is apprehended, he is just below 18, just a few months away 18, and then as the investigation goes on, as he is produced before the board, and then once the trial goes on, and by the time some verdict comes, he must have completed that 18 years period. Now, though he has completed 18 years and he is no more a juvenile, yet at the time of commission of the offence, that is paramount. So what was the age of that person during that time? That will be taken into consideration while considering whether the offender is a juvenile or otherwise. So not completed 18 years of age on the date of commission of such offence. It matters. Date of commission of the offence is paramount rather than what is the age he attains after the trial. So after, it is immaterial whether he completes 18 years or whether he becomes 20 and all, because the trial in our country takes very long time, whether it be juvenile trial or any adult trial, it has its own course, so it takes time. So it doesn't mean that he should be treated once he completes 18 years and once he is into 19th year, we cannot just call him as an adult, because at the time of commission of offence, what was the age, that matters. So law is very specific, act is very specific in giving this particular definition of a juvenile. Then, so child in need of care and protection, lot of clauses have been there, class 1, class 2, 3, 4, like that, who is mentally ill, physically challenged, or who resides in somebody, under the guardianship of somebody who always injures, exploits, abuses, or kills, or neglects, exploits. All these kind of definitions are there. These are more, chapter 2 and all, it deals mostly about the definitions all and all. So who is a child in need of care and protection is very, very clearly given. Very extensive and exhaustive kind of a definition is given under this particular act. Now, so who is found vulnerable and inducted into drug abuse? See, because children are very, very vulnerable, and once they are into the hands of an adult offender, then whatever trades of trick the adult offender must have already mastered, it will be percolating to this child, and then he will also at the very tender age would like to learn these things. And most of the times the adult offenders, they know the loopholes in the legal framework of Juvenile Justice Act, and then they try to exploit, because they know pretty well that juvenile, though a small little petty offences, serious offences, even if they commit, the trial procedure is very, very child friendly, and it will not be very severe, and they can escape. So this is the kind of message that they have. So because they know more than the civilian, it is the offender who comes to know about the loopholes of the act, and then they try to exploit those loopholes. And they, in most of the crimes which are committed, the gangsters especially, the kingpin especially, he employs only the juveniles. Now, affected by armed conflict, and then unsociable gains, imminent risk of marriage before attaining somebody, child marriages and all, they are also victims. And then whose parents, family members, guardian, or any other persons are likely to be responsible for solemnization of such marriages. Because marriages and all, still in states like Rajasthan and all, child marriage is still in vogue, and maybe because of illiteracy, they may not know, the parents themselves may be the culprits, their family members or guardian, they themselves may be the culprits, and then the poor child doesn't have any other resort. So such children who are in the imminent risk of marriage before attaining 18 years, so they are also called children who are in need of care and protection. So as I said, the law is very, very exhaustive in giving the definition of child which is in need of care and protection. So accordingly, you see so many classes of children coming under that particular category. Now, as I said, child friendly. The act often uses the word child friendly. Now, what do we mean? So whatever behavior, when we talk of police officer, so the normal behavior of a police officer is a little rude and all towards adult offender, but then unlike his behavior, the behavior which he is showing towards the child has to be child friendly, and his conduct not intimidating, or it should be cajoling, I mean, kind of giving a kind of a sympathy, or showing empathy towards the child and all. And then whatever practices, normal practices, it will be something different. It should be child friendly, soothing to the child. So whether it is the behavior, conduct, practice, or processes, whatever process we use, arresting the person, we use in case of adults, arrest. So we don't call here arrest, we don't use that. And the police who are special protection police, they are the ones who are not supposed to wear their uniform, and they will be in civis while apprehension, and then immediately they need to be, the child who is apprehended need to be produced before the JJB and all. So when JJB doesn't have a sitting, because the sitting of the board happens periodically, some periodicity. So in case if the board members are not there in a meeting, at least one of the members, if they are there, at least the child can be produced before that member. Now, so these are all child friendly environment. So it's not a jail like, where adult offenders are also there along with them. So it is rather in that environment, whether you call it an observation home or a juvenile home, whatever name, or boster school, whatever name you would like to give, but then the environment there will be completely different, and it will be child friendly, promoting the welfare of the child. We said in the best interest of the child. So we have already learned in the act that whatever activities that we undertake, it has to be in the best interest of the child, otherwise child friendly. Now, environment or treatment, so in one word, it should be humane. It should be humane and considerate. So we have to be very, very considerate to the child and in the best interest of the child. So whatever we take up, whether it be vocational training for the child, or whether the child is really interested in pursuing further studies, or whether it wants to be adopted by a parents, caring parents. So it is whatever activity that we do towards the development of the child, it has to be in the best interest of the child. That's what we mean by. And to the extent, even the trial, I told you, it is not called as a court, it is called as a board and all. So this even the judge will be not in his uniform, and then it will be just create a feeling to the child that we are in an atmosphere which is very, very child friendly, and which is very congenial to the child. So that kind of an environment and the atmosphere we are supposed to maintain as per the JJ Act. Now, as I told you, there are general principles, as many as 14 to 15 or 16 rather, there are general principles, and then entire act, if you see, so whichever section that we study, you see these principles getting reflected. Now, these principles are very, very important, and we need to know about these principles. One is principle of presumption of innocence. Of course, in the case of adult offender also, you see this presumption of innocence until proved guilty, otherwise we have to treat them as innocent. This kind of presumption is applicable even for the child. And principle of dignity and worth, just because he is a delinquent and just because he has done some wrong because of his tender age, it doesn't mean that you should treat him with you humiliate him, or try to suppress him or subdue him. So these kind of things should not be there, and whatever dignity the child deserves, you need to give that worth dignity. And participation, so if the child is interested, or somebody on the behalf of the child, parents, maybe guardian, if they are interested in participation along with the child, it should be allowed. Right to be heard, that means if somebody wants to engage some lawyer and so in the best interest of the child, that should be arranged. And then if somebody, guardian or parents, they want to be there right from the trial, beginning of the trial to the end of the trial, if somebody is interested really in participating, you should allow the participation. And the best interest of the child, the principle is also whatever activity, whatever occasional studies, or whatever further education, or whatever adoption and all, whatever field the child is interested in, whatever area she is interested to pursue, so that should be allowed, and that will be the best interest of the child. And family responsibility, of course, principle of safety of the child. So wherever we keep state's job will not be over by saying that we have put them in best of the available homes, and I need not look back, and the institution is going to take care. But then after joining putting them in the institution also, it is very, very important, because most of the government institutions which are meant for the children, there are a lot of mismanagement that happens, and then there is a lot of abuse the child is subjected to, because the management knows that these people are neglected children, they don't have any guardian, and even if something happens to them also, there is nobody to raise voices. And also institutions know these things pretty well. So people, if the institutions are manned by good people who are good Samaritans and all, so no, there is no problem. But then we are all human beings, the world is made of so different people, so you cannot expect all managers to be very good. There are some managers who also further abuse the child or further exploit the child and all. So it is paramount that the safety of the child, so constant monitoring of these institutions is also equally important. Then positive measures. So what is apart from safety of the child, what are the other positive measures that somebody has to take? This is promoting the well-being of the child, development, and then enabling environment and all we need to create, because the very act talks about the best interest of the child. So measures also should be very positive, and it should be towards promoting well-being of the child. Now, non-stigmatizing semantics, and then once it is out of these institutions, and then once it gets reintegrated into the society, and then no tagging to them, I mean not calling them by names or adding some tags to them so that it becomes stigmatized, and then there is a very likelihood that the child may come back, resort to the old habits and all, to prevent that thing. So no stigmatization or non-stigmatizing semantics semantics which promote stigmatization should never be used. That is the meaning. Now, non-waiver of rights and all. So principles of equality and non-discrimination. So these equality and non-discrimination, they are there in the constitution anyway, but then child who is in delinquency, who has exhibited this trait of delinquency, they should not be discriminated. Now, the privacy and confidential, whatever information that about the delinquent child, that should not be publicized, and it should be kept confidential, as we do with rape victims and all. So similar kind of a thing has to be there for the JJ Act also. Right to privacy, confidentiality, of course, institutionalization as a measure of last resort. So this is what it says is institutionalization is there, of course, as a last resort. If somebody, childless parents are there, if somebody is interested in adoption, so law should give first preference to those people rather than putting the child in an institution. And then because institution, there is no guarantee, government institutions, unless until they are constantly being monitored, otherwise mismanagement can happen, and then lot of corruption can happen there, and lot of exploitation of the child can also, it cannot be ruled out also. So for that reason, always the first preference is give it to the childless parents on adoption. That will be the first thing, and then looking the interest of the child is paramount, and it is only as a last resort, if there is no parents coming forward to take the child, or if there are no other remedy, then as a last means resort, institutionalization is taken as a measure. Now, repatriation and restoration, isn't it? So reintegration, repatriation, restoration, if the parents are willing, send them back to the home, or if somebody is a guardian, relative, if they want to take the child back, then it is allowed and all. Fresh start, so you should give a new lease of life to the boy, to start his career or to start his life afresh. So that provision should also be there. And principle of without resorting to judicial proceedings. Judicial proceedings in their strict sense are very, very stringent and all. So unlike the strict judicial proceedings, the proceedings of a juvenile is something different. It will be done by JJ board and all. Now, principles of natural justice, of course, fair procedure, right to fair hearing, and then against bias and then right to review and all. This is there for any adult offender also. So same kind of principles of natural justice apply even to the child. So these are very very important general principles that are enshrined in the JJ Act. And the very heart of the JJ Act, if you see each section, if you read, these principles are getting reflected in each section. So they are very important. Now, classification of offences, as I said, as per the JJ Act, all the offences that are committed by the juveniles can be conveniently divided into three categories. One, the petty offences, where if you see the punishment, up to 3 years punishment, any crime which attracts this kind of a punishment, now imprisonment, then such type of offences or crimes are put under the category of petty offences. Now, serious offences are those offences where the punishment ranges from 3 to 7 years. So above 3 years, up to means petty. So above 3 years and then up to 7 years, then we call such offences, where the imprisonment is for the duration of 7 years, up to 7 years, then such crimes are called serious offences. And the last category being the heinous offences, where we said that the punishment period for 6 to 18 years is 7 or more years, and then this is the major reform. So the 16 to 18 years, before you classify him as a juvenile, but then the kind of offense that he committed is very very heinous crime, then the age doesn't need not be taken into account. Age will not become the factor there. So what is the nature, how grave is the offense, that matters. So where the punishment or imprisonment, if it is more than 7 years, then naturally it is presumed there is a law fiction, so deemed clause is there. That means though the child age is within that range of a juvenile, but yet the type of offense that he has committed, law presumes that he knows, the child knows the consequences of the act what he is doing. So they said though it is a juvenile age, but yet depending upon the crime that he is doing, and it has to be decided by the board. So whether he is competent enough to understand the consequences of what he has done, whether he knows the distinction between heinous crime and then petty crime and all. So what kind of implements he is using, and then how cruel is he towards the victim, and also depending upon so many factors. So the board will decide whether the child has to be tried for tried under JJ Act, or whether it should be treat that child as an adult, and then on par with any other offender who is called as a adult offender, should he be tried under that. So the JJ board is going to decide upon. So this is one of the major reforms after the Nirbhaya Act which has come, because in that case also we have seen that juvenile, though his age was so tender and all, so he was so cruel towards the victim. That means in all probability the law presumes that he knows the consequences. So they said ultimately he has to be tried as if he is a adult person. Now, trial as adults for heinous crimes, this is one of the most debated aspects of 2015. The juvenile aged between 16 to 18 can be tried as adults if they commit heinous crimes. This is subject to the Juvenile Justice Board's assessment of the juvenile's mental and physical capacity to commit such offences. If the board believes the juvenile was aware of the consequences of their action, they may be tried as an adult. So how do they, this is little subjective, isn't it? So if the majority of them during the trial, if they feel after conducting, how it has to be done, nowhere in the act it is been described. How the JJ board is coming to such conclusions, whether he should be treated as an adult or still a juvenile and all, it is purely subjective. And whether they use some kind of a psychometric tests or psycho tests or profiling they do and all, this is not very clear. So, but still it remains a debate. That means how they arrive at this particular conclusion is not very clear in the act. Now it is, after all, the board only has to do it, but then what parameters, what tests and what rules do they apply in order to come to such conclusions is not given in clear terms in the Act. That is one debate point. Then JJ boards and all, as we know, JJ boards, juvenile justice boards, they are constituted, and then they will be adjudicating the cases of the first category of children, that is children who have become criminals. So we don't use the word criminal so hard, but then we say delinquent. So child which has committed or which is accused of committing a particular offence is called child in conflict with law. So if such children are found or apprehended by the police, so it is the job of the special police to bring this child bring them before the board, that is the JJ board. Now, it assesses whether juvenile should be tried as an adult in case of heinous crimes or treated within the juvenile justice system. The board comprises judicial magistrate, 2 social workers, one of whom must be a woman. So, this is the composition of the board. So, they are responsible for adjudicating the cases where the child in conflict with law are brought by the police, and then there is a board there. Yes. Yes, what is happening?
Nowadays we don't use the word delinquent, right? Rather we use children in conflict with law, right?
We have not used, but then we are so familiar with the term delinquent, we still use in our syllabus also the same word is used, because we are more familiar with that word. But then that is the reason why JJ board, the JJ Act very clearly say don't call them an offender, don't call them delinquent, and then don't use the word arrest, let the police not wear the normal uniform, because it will be so intimidating and all. So the Act says all that, but then in colloquial terms, because we are familiar with one word and we still keep using that. See, for example, DNA profiling is the right word, but then still we use DNA fingerprinting. Why we use? Because we are familiar with fingerprinting and whatever which is linked with an age-old method, tested method. So when we use, when we want to acclimatize ourselves with any scientific procedure which is a new procedure, so we try to tag this word fingerprinting, because we by using that word we want to imply that we want to show people that it is as accurate as fingerprinting, as good as fingerprinting, as conclusive as fingerprinting. That is the reason why we try to use such words. It doesn't mean that it's a wrong word, it should not be used, but then we are familiar with one technology, we have tested it, so we want to be sure, we want to tell people, some scientific community, that this is as accurate as fingerprinting. So the old habits die hard. So we are familiar with one word, and for us to come to terms with a new terminology and all, it takes a lot of time. So maybe that is the only reason I can see. Otherwise, delinquent and all, they feel that it is little derogatory. Delinquents, if you use, it is derogatory because the child has a lot of future. Somebody has to think about its treatment, its welfare, its development. Instead, if you stigmatize the child by putting the word delinquent and all, that will, over a period, if not in this tender age, at least if the child grows and becomes an adult, then that leaves a indelible mark in the mind of the child. So that is the reason the law strictly says that such words should never be used for a child who has come in conflict with law, or if it is a vagabond of a child who ran away from home and all, you have to use the word child in need of care and protection. The board, of course, there is a composition for the board, and how frequent the board sits and all is a very elaborate act that it speaks about, and it invariably says out of the 2 social members that are there in the board, one of them should be women, because women as a childbirth and all, they are the ones, for that reason. So women also is a must there. Now the magistrate, who should be the magistrate? Is it the first class magistrate or judicial magistrate, chief metropolitan magistrate, whatever be, they are called, once they are the board chairperson, they are called principal magistrate. Whether it is judicial magistrate or chief magistrate, irrespective of that, So once they are appointed as the JJ board member, principal magistrate he is called, and he should minimum experience is 3 years, and then 2 social workers should be there and all, and one should be woman and all. This is the composition of the board. Now there are a lot of functions and responsibilities. Let us not, because it only syllabus talks about the delinquency, so let us not talk in detail whatever is there in the, for the completion, because people wanted some notes also to be given. That's the reason I have given so much details. Otherwise, for us to understand it is suffice that we should know that for children who are in need of care and protection, the board is something different. It is not called as a board, it is called child welfare committee. So for adjudication and all, they have given lot of procedure there, and what stage it should be done, and then how they should dispose the matters when they come to the final order, and the inspection of residential facilities for the children. We said, lot of homes and institutions are there. They are called juvenile homes, they are called observation homes, and also at least once in a periodicity, once in every month, there should be a inspection, and there is a team which goes there and then looks into whether whatever facilities that the child is supposed to get, whether she is getting it or not, and then quality service is being rendered by them or not. So these are the police for registration of first information report for offences committed against any children in conflict with law. So there are a lot of safeguards, checks and balances which have been included when you talk of the functions and responsibility of the board. Then, as I said, child welfare committees are also there. Now, the Act establishes these kind of committees in every district, and these committees are responsible for dealing the children, as I said, in need of care and protection. So children who are vagabond and all, to look into the matters of such type of children, we don't call that as a board, but then we call it as a welfare committee, child welfare committee. And who are all the children who are abandoned, who have become orphaned, who have no parents, or parents both died, or a single parent, or a father who is a drunkard, and then who is a drug abuser, and then from a very poor family and all. Children who are begging otherwise, who have no other means of eking out livelihood and all, So they are the ones. Now CWC decides on rehabilitation measures. As I told, it should be in the best interest of the child. So we will take that into, because we also, best interest, we also need to ask the child whether the child is interested in going to adoption, or whether it wants to study further, or some any vocational studies if she wants to, or he wants to pursue. So it is always in the best interest of the child. Now, including the adoption. So the child welfare committee is responsible to ensure that a proper framework, legal framework is given to the process of adoption. So earlier, as I told you, there were a lot of illegal adoptions, and then the beggars and other people who are not able to maintain the child, they used to take some money and then give it to the parents who are childless and all. So in order to legalize the adoption process, the child committee, welfare committees have been established in every district, and one of the roles and responsibilities, duties of such committees is so systematize the entire process of adoption, and then of course foster care also. The committee again will have a chairperson. In case JJ board, we have seen only 2 members. Now here there are 4 members. And then whenever state government thinks fit, they will be appointed, and as it is the case in JJB, here also one of the members should invariably be woman, and then an expert on the matters concerning. They should have some specialization where they can understand the child psychology, and then child friendly kind of procedures and all, they should be acquainted. So one of them invariably should be expert in these areas.
Ma'am, what is the difference between JJ Act and the standard minimum rules set here in the Beijing rules?
No, they were rules. They were only Beijing rules. So most of them have been adopted. That was enacted somewhere in 1990, if I just go back.
1985.
So more or less the spirit of that act, spirit of those rules, you see that principles, whatever 15 or 14 principles we are trying to look at, So most of them, they are borrowed from that only. Whatever rules.
Is the government of India signatory to these rules? At the time of
Definitely, it
1985?
must be signatory. Otherwise,
Yes.
they will not implement. If once they become the signatory, only then they will also under the municipal act and all. They have to involve when once they sign. They have to in total. They have to enact their personal laws. They have to enact the municipal laws, and they should adopt them in letter and spirit. That is the purpose of signing any convention or covenant. They are signatories. So it becomes mandatory on the member countries.
Understand. Second question is that these rules for liberty, which were established by United Nations in 1990, since every company has their own constitution and their own books to follow, and most of the liberties are covered in the rules. What was the need of these rules specifically in 1990? Was there any specific reason why these rules were
Uniformity
made?
international.
See, once we are signatory, they should be uniformity. What is the meaning of signatory? That means whatever rules are stipulated there, there should be uniformity in implementation, isn't it? So as you rightly said, there are some company acts and then labor laws and all. How many labor laws are strictly being implemented in factories or in companies?
There are 27 labor laws in India.
But there are laws, but then how many companies are strictly abiding by those laws, and who is there to monitor and inspect it?
All limited companies are supposed to do it, whether they do it or not do it, but on paper they do it.
That's what, that is the
They
thing.
give an undertaking to the
Yes.
factory officer or factory manager,
But then,
and to the labor
हाँ,
officers, labor
so,
commissioners.
if that is the thing, then MC Mehta, why is so active then? So MC Mehta has fought so many pills.
That was
keeping,
at the time when there were less labor laws. Labor laws were, well, basically after independence.
Of course,
Earlier there
but
was
then-
Factories Act 1996, after that it was amended in 1945, then finally it came in 1948, and there has been a number of amendments after that.
but then,
MC Mehta has definitely helped
I know,
in
of course.
emission rules, in environment.
So, but then still India, we are very good at starting. We're good at starting, but then sustaining, we are taking back seat. When it comes to implementation,
Spirit to implement is not there.
it's not strictly. I mean, nobody takes that serious. See, take the example of that Nirbhaya only, Nirbhaya, Abhaya, whatever name you would like to give. But then more and more act you are enacting, more and more stringent punishments you are trying to bring in, more and more draconian laws you are promulgating. But then what is the end result? I mean, people initially they used to rape girl children, and then they used to just get away. But then now they will not stop at raping the girl. They'll go to the extent of killing the girl, so that there is no evidence. If she suppose survives, and then maybe if the girl identifies the offender, maybe there is strict punishment, capital punishment. Why avoid this? And then at times, not even the body. If the body is there, maybe they get some clues. They'll go to the extent of burning the body, so that or burying the body, or do the last rites in so haste that ultimately you don't find, even if some CBI or some top people institutions come, they are not able to do anything, because there is no body. The corpus delicti itself is not there. What is that we can do? So accused are accused always.
It is not only Nirbhaya. There was a Tandoor case in 1985.
I know.
Wherein that Congress MLA has burned his wife
I know.
in a tandoor in a hotel.
Naina Sahani case.
Naina Sahani. So that was the most horrendous crime.
I know.
And I actually support capital punishment for such. It should be time bound. Within 30 days they should be hanged.
I know.
And that is how it should be. Otherwise, there is no deterrent.
There is no deterrence, and then they are becoming emboldened. What if everybody is going scot free? I mean, why not I also
Because
do
of
this?
politicians.
I
Mainly
know.
because of politicians.
It's all I know that politicians are, that is the reason, nobody now believes in pursuing higher studies and all. What is the use when after all I have to be little a glorified clerk at the best, or maybe some manager. So when I compare myself with any politician, or for that matter any cine actor without any formal education, so why should I spend so much of my time and energies, age on that? So this is the kind of message we are trying to give. Anyway, this is.
Ma'am, I was going through your this notes which you have sent. The act which you sent pertains to 2015. I
Yes.
think we need to have the latest one.
2015 के 2020 is also there.
ఇండియా కోడ్ ఇండియా కోడ్ లో డౌన్లోడ్ చేస్తాం.
This has been downloaded from the India code. Bolke, I thought this is the latest, to my knowledge. But anyway, we have to verify, as you rightly said. Let me just get back in the next class whether
Not an issue.
whether we have any to my knowledge this is the latest. After Nirbhay, this is, maybe there are rules, some rules may be changed, but then the essence of the act, I think.
There are not many changes, ma'am.
Now, of course, rules and all, elaborate rules are there. Rules keep changing anyway. But then the spirit of the act, or maybe some amendments here and there, maybe some procedural things have must have changed.
But since we have the opportunity, it is better to learn the latest one.
Of course. I'll look into that. I'll keep that at the back of my mind, and we'll probably for the next class we'll still look into that. So this is the inspection of residential facilities and all are there as I said, checks and balances, and of course suo motu cognizance of the cases are also being incorporated in this, and of course special juvenile police units, as I said, or local police, as the case may be, under the protection of children from sexual POXO cases and all, referred to the board under subsection 2 of 17 section, and to coordinate with the police and labor departments and other agencies involved in the care and protection of the children, with support of district child protection unit or the state government. Now, in case of complaint of an abuse of a child in any child care institution, the committee shall conduct an inquiry. See, as I told you that government institutions, they are poorly maintained, the facilities are not adequate, and then the children to space ratio is also very, very skewed and all. So there are no facilities and all. I know one, when I used to work for the juvenile board and all, I used to have one gentleman by name Ganpat Rao. So he was such a man, he was a retired retired person from military army, and then he used to borrow. So literally, when the government quota is not given to them, he doesn't want the children to die of hunger. He used to go to he used to have good friends in Boster School and other related schools, observation homes and all. So he the managers there also are very friendly to this man. So he used to literally go to them and then get things on borrowing basis. So when I get my quota, I'll replenish that quota. Please, my quota got over. My children are, they will go without food. So why don't you? I'll take some quota on lease basis. Please provide that. And he used to go to them and then get that provisions and then used to feed. And under his leadership, many children got rehabilitated. And I vividly remember one Ponnala Sridhar Bolke. It happened in Andhra when I worked there in the university. So one child, Sridhar Bolke, he was a ardent fan of the actor, Telugu actor Chiranjeevi. And then the first first show, he used to go every time. And there is one neighborhood auntie, so she is childless. So this boy Ponnala Sridhar used to go to her and then beg for money. आंटी हमारा ये हीरो का नया पिक्चर आया, हम देखना है, फर्स्ट शो में देखना है. So he used to borrow money from her, and then she used to very has a lot of sympathy for this child, and then because she is fond of that child, so every now and then whenever this child used to ask, she used to give money. And on one fateful day it so happened that this boy was desperate. He was not finding money to go to that movie, and then as usual he approached that neighborhood auntie, and then she was in a very busy thing, urgent thing she was attending, and then she was maybe some kind of a function in her house. She was very busy cooking and all, and this boy went on pestering her, give money, aisa karke. So but poor lady, she couldn't pay heed to that boy, and then in that fit of craze and anger, this boy took one of the knives that were there, kitchen knives, and then almost 14 stabs were there. Ultimately that lady died, and this boy landed in the observation home. So after that, lot of counseling and all, lot of exercise and all, he has become little adult, attained, he was in his teens, and then he was a well built boy. Then he also passed out exam. So no parents were reluctant to take him, isn't it? Nobody came for bail for him. So we just went as a, because part of institution visit and all, I took my students from Andhra University, and then we visited that place, and I gifted him with a watch. So he wept so bitterly that day. I still remember that day. And then I afterwards, after a very long time, I of course I left that institution and then came back to Hyderabad. And after my inquiry, I was told that he was absorbed into a very good multinational company, and then he was doing so good there. So there are some people, but then most of the government manned institutions are so bad. The management always tries to exploit, and that is the reason you see children, they run away from institutions, and then they also again go to the other vices and all. So these things do happen. Now, in case of complaint of abuse of a child in any child care institution, the committee, one of the duties of this child welfare committee is also to look into, inquire into that kind of things, and direct the police or district child protection units or labor departments, and appropriate legal services for such children should also be given. So there are a lot of functions, roles and duties for these CWC and also the JJ board. And adoption provisions are very, very elaborate. Now we call that as a Central Adoption Resource Authority, CARA it is called in short. And then what should be the eligibility? Prospective adoptive parents, what should be the eligibility? So shall be physically fit, because financially, physically, mentally, if they are not alert and fit, what is the point in giving the child to such a parents? So it is paramount that CARA also does a lot of groundwork, and then find out whether the parents are sound enough mentally, physically, financially, whether they are able to look after the welfare of the child and all. They will assess that, and only then they will they will categorize them as the eligible parents, and they will only selectively give child to such parents. And whether they are able to provide the child a good upbringing and all, these are some of the parameters based on which they will try to assess the child. So a single male is not eligible, likewise a single diverse person can also adopt, so provided there are certain fulfillment and criteria. So these are some of the eligibility criteria which the CARA will take into account before the child is handed over in adoption. Of course, here also they try to give the duties of CARA, like in country, inter-country, it should be in country and inter-country both. So to facilitate interstate adoption coordinations with other state agency, inter-country adoptions also, and then regulations on adoptions related matters from time to time, and carry out the function of the central authority under the Hague Convention. We have said Hague Convention also, it provides a lot of provisions for protection of children and cooperation in respect of inter-country adoption. Then foster care institutions are also there. Then rehabilitation and reintegration. It emphasizes the essence or the spirit of the act is, ultimately the child has to be rehabilitated once it comes out of the institution. And we also said, when adoption is there, the first preference should be given to that, and only as a last resort we have to put, because government agencies or government institutions, we know the functioning of such institutions, inadequacy of funds, inadequacy of infrastructure, inadequacy of staff and all, provisions and all. These are inherent in any government manned institution. So the law vividly says and very explicitly tells that it should be as a last resort we need to put the child in the institution. Now, rehabilitation, social integration, in case of children who come in conflict with law, and a lot of counseling has to be done, a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists need to be called upon, and some educationalists also are to be invited, some volunteers need to, some NGOs and all. I mean, they will be encouraged, and as a corporate social responsibility, lot of companies also keep coming. There will be lot of spiritual leaders will be coming. They will be trying to give some good things, good advices and all. I mean, try to mold them and all. Some physical instructors will be there, and some occasional instruction will be there, phenyl making, candle making, lot of vocational training, or somebody interested in carpentry also, there is provision for them to learn this. And institutionalized children are provided with necessary resources for their physical, emotional education. So overall development is what is the essence of the act, and then it says that it should be in the best interest of the child. Now, protection of child rights and all, the Act strengthens the provisions to safeguard the children from abuse, exploitation. So, when we say neglected children, all these category of children, whether they are under parents or whether they are under the guardianship, so if these are there, then the law also tries to protect the child's rights. It mandates proper care standards in child care institutions. So unless until it mandates, law mandate that these minimum standards should be there in the institution. But then very unfortunate that I have seen personally myself, because I have some association with these kind of institutions, I can vouch that whatever that is there in the act, no institution to my knowledge is upkeeping this in letter and spirit. So there are lot of gaps in that, and then nobody really takes it serious, and then people who are disgruntled and then unwanted elsewhere, these are the kind of managers that you see most of the time in the institution. So they themselves are frustrated what kind of respect they'll have for the rights of the children and all. And they are the ones in their lifetime are the people who must have exploited the children, who must have abused because nobody checks their antecedents and all, and then all posts can be manipulated, managed. So such managers, if they are the heads of the institutions like this, you can understand what will be the fate of the child. So the rights of the children are to be monitored, and then the guidelines also will be there, so that institutions on inspection, suppose some license, even private institutions can also be given licensing, but then the moment upon inspection, if they are found not abiding some rules or some stipulations, some standard guidelines, so their license can always be suspended, they can be altogether cancelled also. Then punishment and all, use of child by militant groups, kidnapping, abduction of the child, offences committed on disabled children, who are mentally, physically challenged type of children and all. Offences again, as I said, heinous crimes. Then we have offences which are cognizable but non-bailable, and then punishable with imprisonment for a term 3 years, and then more than 7 years, and then 7 years and all. We try to categorize the crimes into 3, and identity, of course, like in rape cases and all, we also try to keep this identity of the children under secretive. because the child identity should never be disclosed. So there is a prohibition clause also, and of course when contravention of this is there, and there is some stipulated punishment also, whether it be police or whether it be any other person, they are not supposed to reveal the identity, and any person contravening the provisions, as usual, there will be some sections which are punishable, and some imprisonment is also there. Some 2 lakhs, it may also extend to 2 lakhs. You can understand how serious is this offence. If somebody violates it and still go publishes something similar to Calcutta, where they try to show the pictures of the lady doctor and also revealing her name and all, just for their own ratings and all. So they are strictly prohibited. Then punishment when cruelty is meted to a child and all, and employment of child for begging. So neglected children include these things also in the definition. So we need to look into these things, and then there are contraventions of this. There is a lot of punishment and all. The law is very, very clear about these things. So liquor and narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, so they are gullible, children are gullible, and then they do not understand what is the consequence of taking a drug or psychotropic substance, or maybe if they are also in trafficking and all, they will be employed, so that the gangster or the kingpin is aware that there are a lot of loopholes, and then child, there is no punishment, or punishment is not that severe, so they are aware, and then they make use of this kind of provisions in the law. Then these are all punitive and all. Now this is important. All other things are there in Bayer Act also, we can read, understand, very simple. But then when it comes to critical analysis, we may extend little time so that we can complete this JJ Act altogether. That is my thing. So I think we are little exceeding, doesn't matter. So rehabilitation versus punishment. So why the Act harps upon rehabilitation rather than punishment or punitive? The prime objective of the Juvenile Act is the rehabilitation of juvenile offenders rather than punitive measures. And allowing juveniles between 16 to 80, whether they should be tried by adults, is again a matter for debate. And then, so what will happen if they are put to rigors of a punishment on par with the adult offender? What will happen? Now, has been criticized for contradict, because the very act of JJ, the concept is to rehabilitate and reintegrate and well-being and child interest and child-friendly things. When we incorporate all these things in the act on one hand, on the other hand we say now they should be treated and they should be tried as if they are adults and all. I mean, how these two things are matching? They are contradictory to one another. Is some school of thought, some people, I mean, their people's opinion is divided here. So there is a lot of debate and discussion. Now critics, the argument is something different. What do they say? The critics argue that the provisions can punish juveniles deeper into criminal behavior, as adult jails are not conducive to rehabilitation. Now, so you treat him as adult and then try him as adult in the court, and then put him behind bars along with the other adult offenders. They will learn the trade tricks of the trade. Then they will also, once they come out of their, because jails are universities, they teach you a lot of crime, how to do the crime and then get away, how to go scot free and all. This kind of education also the juvenile offenders are getting from the senior offenders or adult offenders. So how good is it to try him and then again put him among the offenders who are already seniors to them, and then they are going to only learn, and then they are much more professional now. When they come out of the portals of the jail, they are more educated and all. So that is another critic's argument. Now mental and psychological evaluation, once we say whether he is an adult, whether he knows the consequences of the offence or otherwise, now how are you going to assess that? Is the board's assessment subjective or is it objective? What kind of tests are they going to conduct? Are they validated tests? And then is there any objectivity that we can attach, or is it going to be subjective matter? So that is also a matter of controversy now. Then increase in juvenile crimes. Supporters of the act argue also that the provision to try old juveniles as adults is necessary to address the increasing involvement of minors in the serious offences such as rape, murder, gang activities. They believe it acts as a deterrent and promotes accountability. So because now with the advent of internet, with the advent of IT Act and all, I mean even small children, even below 7 years, 10 years, they operate the computer, they operate the systems in a better way, and then in a more efficient way than the adults, isn't it? You know, the age, the child age, I mean, when you try to give the definition of a child below 18 years, below 7 years and all, that concept is no more there, because awareness levels and then the intelligent levels, if you see the children, the young generation children, they are much more better, and they are able to grasp things and then understand the situations in a much better way than any adult, you know. So if that is the case, then the definition of juvenile or definition of child who cannot understand the consequences, they become very loose terms, and then they lose significance over a period of time. Now, so when they can understand, because on one hand people also argue that they should be given sex education, they should be given understanding of the reproductive system and all, and if everything is an open book, then they will also learn the good and bad part of it. And then people who train themselves and who are given a good, who have a very good family background, they are tuned and then they are channeled into proper kind of a behavior. And people who, on the other hand, if they are not into that kind of a thing, they will again go in the wrong direction and all, you know. This is both the supporters and then both the critics of the act have their own opinions to offer. And implementation infrastructure, so we are, as I said, you know, good to act so many act which are very, very stringent, which are you know, very powerful, which gives a lot of teeth and all, that's all good. But then when it comes to infrastructure, we say a lot of institutions have to be there, child friendly procedures have to be there, and government institutions, and then we can also give a private institution when they are coming forward, we can give them license and all. We say so many things when it comes to infrastructure, whether it is the resource or infrastructure, we still lag behind, and then we don't have that kind of facilities. Whether it is the establishment of boards or committees or institutions, you know, they are not adequate. And it comes to police, we say don't wear uniform and all, but still not very many police really have understood the spirit of the act. And then even if they are specially posted there also, not very many of them will understand the procedure, and then they always deviate and they still follow that kind of a attitude and behavior, though the act says they should have a different orientation, behavior and all, but then it is only limited to on the paper, and it never, when it comes to implementation, this rehabilitation concept still remains only on paper, not at the implementation stage. So overemphasis on legal processes. Some experts argue that acts focus more on legal procedures. So what is the spirit behind? We have to think about the strategies, like what is the best education I can give it to the child, or what is the measures which I can adopt so that poverty can be alleviated, or psychological support, how far I am able to give. So these are taking a secondary stage because we are focusing more on the legal procedures. So naturally the other aspect, the spirit of the act, that we should give more emphasis on other things which will promote the child welfare, they are only taking a second seat, is the other critic point of view on that. Now in conclusion, what we can say is, JJ Act 2015 is a very big step that we have taken in the amendment side. It's okay, but then towards reforming the juvenile justice system in India, while it strengthens the provisions for the protection and rehabilitation, it faces challenges both in balancing the need for justice and case of serious offences. And the Act continues to evolve. 2015 is one Act. One of the participants also says that a lot of things still have to happen, and a lot of 2020 also there is some provisions. He says, let me also look into those provisions and what are those amendments and all. But then we can say that the unless the implementation part of it, unless the infrastructure improves to a very great extent, but law, as long as it remains on only on paper, no good will be done to the children, whether it is the delinquent child or for that matter the neglected child. So that's all I wanted to say for today. I think we have completed the JJ Act. An overview, I don't say at length I have discussed, but it's only an overview. Everything is there in Act and all for diploma. That is sufficient. Anyway, I have also shared a lot of PowerPoint as well as the Act itself. Also, I have already shared in the group. So for tomorrow, we'll touch upon some other topic. So for today, that's all from my side. We'll leave the meeting now.
Ma'am, what?
Yes. बोलिए.
Shikha ma'am, continue please.
Ma'am, can we have a result for that exam, please?
It will, because the only thing is the instruction is that we are supposed to put up that in the ERP, which is also visible for the students from their portal. But unfortunately that ERP I try to see, it is not yet open. But then I'll just put in a word to the.
I cannot do.
See, I can only unofficially share that, but then officially I am not supposed to do that directly to the student, but I should be made it visible in the portal, But unfortunately that portal they have not yet opened, Portal is there, they have not given the permission, it is not visible seen. But if you are very keen, I can share the marks.
To check the e-library as well, ma'am.
I don't know what the headquarters is doing, but then let me get back, just remind me in the coming classes, just I'll have a word. I'm right now not in the, headquarters, not in the office, but I'm operating from my place. But the moment I go there physically, probably I'll have a discussion with them. I don't know why they have not opened. Otherwise, by this time last year it was open. We were uploading those marks and all in that portal. I don't know why that is not open. Maybe our system is slow, or maybe they have not given permission and all. I'll just get back to you. Just remind me. Otherwise, I have no objection about marks. Kya hai marks? So I say unofficial, I can tell. But then just formalize it. When they wanted me not to reveal, why should I take the risk? I can always tell. The marks are there in the office. I can just unofficially tell you. It was between you and me. I can share that. Officially, if you want uploading and all, that takes time. That's what I mean to say.
Okay, ma'am.
Each one of you individually, just by phone, not in the group, I can tell you. Isn't it? That's what I mean. I am not against revealing the meeting marks,
Yeah,
but only problem is individual.
Right, ma'am, but we are not accessed with the e-library as well.
I'll also bring that to the notice of the higher ups,
Yes.
because the purpose will be defeated if no access is given. So
Ma'am, what is important in JJ Act from examination point of view?
Yes.
What is important?
What is
What
important means the boards. JJ board is important, CWC is important, KARA is important. These three are very, very, and principles, as I said, is also important. That 14, 15 principles which we have tried to discuss, those, the roles and responsibility CWC, and roles and responsibility JJB, then the adoption, and then the KARA, CARA, Care and Adoption Regulation Act, this thing. Agency is also important, KARA in short. So these four, 5 items are very important. Definitions, of course, child in conflict with law, maybe 2 marks, 5 marks question it may come. The definition of 2 categories of children, neglected children and then child who is in conflict with law. These 2 definitions and all are also little important.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Right. We'll leave the meeting now.
Yes.
Right. Regarding this, కాల్పట్టు పోతున్నాయి ఇది డీలింగ్ చేస్తే నేను వెళ్ళిపోతాను. నీళ్ళు కదా మరి